Hello, and welcome back to yet another live episode of Green and White, brought to you by Argyle Life. Wow, just wow! I suppose even as a podcast host, even I'm a man of very few words, and I don't have any. I don't have any to describe. Saturday, Plymouth Argyle will head to the Etihad to face Pep Guardiola's Manchester City as a reward for beating Liverpool, who are arguably the best club side in world football right now. Yeah, that's madness. But yeah, I fucking love it. I fucking love it. I'm just here to host because that's my job in it. But joining me tonight is John Alsop. How's things?
Yeah, my voice is not so much of a thing after striding into town chanting the names of Clegg-Swallow and Hardy and others. I don't think we could all say we're speechless because you can't really get away with doing a podcast with four speechless people, and I think you know us better than that by now. I think we will have a lot to say, but yeah, incredible. I mean, just very, very hard to put into words what an amazing day it was.
I mean, I have just told you all that I've done no prep for this. I did write an intro, but I can't read it without getting emotional, so I'm not going to do that.
Oh, go on, do it. No, you said you could.
No, I can't. Basically, Rochdale, Port Vale, Chelsea, and Liverpool were the only days I got emotional after a game. And Sam saw me on Sunday. But anyway, skipping Sam for a second. Adam Price, how's things? Good weekend?
Skipping Sam, that's put me right in it. Yeah, no, I've had worse weekends, thank you. Yeah, I'm also going to be another speechless individual who's going to try and get away with still saying that after speaking for an hour. So yeah, wish us luck, everybody. But I think it's safe to say I'm largely fine.
Yeah, that's good. And Sam Down, what is it going to take to see you in drag? Surely beating Liverpool was enough. I know the promise was if we beat Sunderland.
No, it was a one-time deal. And let me justify that. With my very throaty voice that I'm currently having, let me justify that by saying I was a lot more confident we could get something from yesterday than I was for the Sunderland game, because we'd come off two excellent performances. We knew they were going to be playing a weakened team, and we had home advantage. So I was so much more, obviously I didn't predict we were going to win, but I was so much more confident that we could do it yesterday than I was going into the Sunderland game. So that, I'm sorry, that was a one-time deal. If there is ever a game
actually, it wasn't a one-time deal. What you said was if we win at Sunderland. So I will be holding you to that if we ever win at the Stadium of Light from this moment forward. You can specify which Sunderland game.
Please, let's hope they're going up then, because we're staying up, maybe. Yeah, if there's ever a game where I'm like remotely that level of unconfident again, maybe I might, but no, I think that was a one-time promise, and as much as we were excellent at Sunderland, we didn't win, and therefore the promise didn't get fulfilled. But yeah, wow, I can confirm Aaron was a blubbering mess at full time. He tried to get me to take a picture of him, and we had to do many takes, didn't we? We had to do many takes of that picture when one results weren't so puffed up, but we got a decent one in the end, didn't we, Aaron?
Yeah. Well,
it's just what it's all about, isn't it? Days like that. It's just absolutely what it's all about. That's why you go for all the bad days for days like that. I know we said it after Brentford, but even more so yesterday. And I want to say, whatever happens with this season, whatever even happens with this era of Plymouth Argyle, the FA Cup memories of this season are already absolutely off the charts. From that mad weekend of the Schumacher to Muslich Friday, the Brentford win, the Liverpool draw Sunday, the obviously ecstasy of yesterday, followed by the draw today. As if we couldn't get the team with the second best home record in the Premier League. Then we played the best team in the world of football. Now we've got the reigning champions. Maybe another 1-0 win. Who knows? yeah, it's and I'm sure even if we get back to 6-0, that'll be a great day at the Etihad. It's another amazing Argyle day. Yeah, comment coming up from Lewis saying yesterday up there with QPR 04, and I would agree. It's up there with that. It's up there with Port Vale. It's up there with Pompey in the playoffs. Up Shrewsbury away, the Callum Wright winner. It's in that pantheon, isn't it, for sure? We could probably debate where it fits, but yeah.
Does it rank, like, where in our FA Cup history does it rank? Does it above like Stourbridge and Dorchester, or?
Oh, I would say above Stourbridge and Dorchester. The Lincoln and Welling run might give it a run for its money, but I'd say
but below
it's above, yeah.
The streets will never forget Junie and McDougall getting a metal detector out, which was, I believe, handed to him by John Terry's brother on the pitch at Home Park in 2003. So I'd say that's that probably was above yesterday, but it was pretty close.
Adam, only Wigan in 2013 have won the FA Cup and been relegated in the same season. Are we going to add our names to that list?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how we're going to cope with the League One season with the league phase of the Europa League at the same time. I don't know how we'll pull it off, but we're going to have to because it looks like, according to the draws, the bigwigs at the Football Association are running scared a little bit of Plymouth Argyle. To give us Brentford, Liverpool, and Manchester City as our first 3 games in the FA Cup this season is a signal that they don't want us to win this thing. But apparently we're going to win it anyway.
Cardiff away in round 6, and that's the one we'll lose.
There we go. There we
round
go.
6.
Yeah.
Round 6.
Yeah, round 6, quarterfinals.
Nothing that at all. Sorry.
Do not call it round 6 ever again.
It was round 6 for a very long time. I think it changed to officially being quarterfinals recently, but the 6th round has always been a thing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not going mad.
There's a lot to get through tonight. Whether it's called the quarterfinals or round 6 isn't high on the agenda.
That's fine. That's fine.
Do you reckon we could get to the? Do you reckon we could get to the 8th round, Sam?
We might have a chance. Yeah,
potentially.
To be fair, though, just on the subject of League One and the Europa League, we do need to be careful, as Simon Jordan rightly pointed out earlier, that we're not having a good cup run and then playing Accrington Stanley next season. That would be a real shame, wouldn't it? Also something that there is a 0% chance of happening, but never let that get in the way of Simon Jordan making a good point.
Every game and sneak into the playoffs like Doncaster did last year. That's definitely not going to happen.
Well, they have just signed Conor Grant, so there are chances of that.
Oh, it could happen. Yeah, Conor Grant will make it happen if anyone can. Fair point, Aaron.
Exactly. Anyway, back to the beating Liverpool in the FA Cup thing. Sam, do you want to give us your customary post-match run through? Why not?
Yeah, it's not going to be as maybe detailed as some of them for reasons you can probably infer with your imagination. To be fair, once again, I thought we were absolutely exceptional. Without a John, there's a comment for you on the screen. Look, asking if you're going to be going to the 5th round game. Are you? No, I think you might be busy that weekend, mightn't you?
You'll wait for the 6th round, I imagine.
Yeah, he'll wait for the 6th round. Anyway, back to the answer. Yeah, we were once again absolutely exceptional. I feel we kind of said in the sheer anger, frustration, sadness of that podcast after the Burnley game, the hope is that first half going in like we did was the rock bottom moment, and it looks like it might be, because everything since then we've raised the level. That second half was better. There was a bit of pride, there was a bit of structure in that second half. I know that Burnley were 5-0 up, they were sitting in, but we still had a decent enough second half in a way. Certainly better than the first, for sure. Then, obviously, the game at Sunderland was a really good performance. Got a draw, could have got a win. West Brom, we raised the level again. It was probably about equal to Sunderland in terms of performance, but more clinical and better defensively. And then, obviously, against Liverpool, we raised the level that little bit more again. So with every game or every half game since that rock bottom moment, we've raised the level a bit more. And I'm just, incredibly proud, incredibly happy. And although I want to be clear that I certainly never wrote Miran Muslic off I am preparing my apology form. In fact, I've already filled it in because comment come up saying that Sam Down still wants Schumacher back. Clueless. I mean, I wouldn't call him clueless, but no, I wouldn't have him back over Miran Muslic. No, not after yesterday. No, and I'm going to say that because even if in the parallel universe where we did appoint Schumacher, he was better long term, I don't think there's any way Schumacher would have won that game yesterday. It would have been like a plucky, heartfelt defeat, maybe, but I don't think there's any way he would have won that game yesterday just because the style of play that was needed was absolutely what Muslic brings in. And look, even if he does then go on to not succeed at Argyle, he absolutely has the perfect way of going about games like that, which we absolutely saw in full flow. And to be clear, I don't think he will fail at Argyle. I think he's clearly absolutely night and day above the last two as a head coach, without a single shadow of a doubt. That was a long, waffly ramble, wasn't it? Where was I?
Yeah, Sam, sorry, not to talk about Steven Schumacher in this, this podcast again about beating Liverpool under.
You did put the comment on the screen, though, didn't you, Aaron? So you did put the comment on the screen. You did not have to put the comment on the screen. Oh no! Gavin Wilson said Sam Ted Lasso in Pop World sealed the win. I don't know who he could be referring to as Ted Lasso, but I didn't.
Anyway, Sam, I'm going to mute you there, Sam. John, do you want to give us an actual run through of the 1-0 win against Liverpool? You don't think I asked?
No, I'll do it. I will do it. I will do it. Just to say, we were absolutely fantastic. We completely they really raised the level. That was what I was going to say. I did say that. And honestly, I can't really remember up until the last 5 minutes a single chance Liverpool had. They had a few in the last 5 minutes. Nunez maybe made them a bit more direct when he came off the bench, and he gave them a bit more of a direct option. There was one sort of calamitous moment when Hazard and Katic had a bit of a breakdown in communication, fell to McConnell, who should have slotted it into an empty net, but that was our little bit of luck went our way, because let's be honest, the luck went against us with that Kelleher save, because I think 9 times out of 10, the keeper does not get down to that. I think Ryan Hardy finishes that brilliantly. He gets it into the corner. He gets it almost as far as he can into the corner without finding the net. But Adam doesn't agree. But I think he got it. It wasn't a bad finish. I think it was an incredible
clear,
save.
Sam, comment on screen, not you. I mean, you're speaking sense as ever.
Oh, okay, that's good. I think it wasn't a bad finish from Hardy. It was an incredible save from Kelleher. Possibly one of the best saves I've ever seen a keeper make against Argyle. And that would have put us 2-0 up if that had gone in. So yes, we had a bit of luck go our way with Hazard and Katic, got away with one, but how brilliant they both were, apart from that one moment. That save from Hazard at the end, oh my goodness, it wasn't quite as good as the Kelleher one, but it was such an amazing save. And Katic everywhere, put his head everywhere all game, lost a tooth. I think Adam Randall probably owes him a pint or two at the end of the season party for losing his tooth. But I want to say absolutely, John showing off his Randall shirt. I want to say absolutely fantastic performance to mark an incredibly proud day for Plymouth. And I want to be clear.
If you just
Darren put the comment on screen.
Have you just outed Adam Randall as the Tooth Fairy?
If you like. Well, he takes tooth away, so that would be fairly valid. And I just want to say, I always like to say, I give criticism where due and praise where it's due. There were so many great players, and I'm sure we'll talk about all of them. I want to say very early on, Darko JB, that was one of the most amazing midfield performances I've seen, not just from him, but from any Argyle midfielder of any era. He completely controlled the game. He was absolutely everywhere. Clearly, he's been listening to what the new head coach has been saying to him. Randall was great as well. Boetang was very good when he came on. But Darko JB completely dominated that midfield. Absolutely sublime performance from him. And if that's the level he can get to, let's just hope he shows it a bit more often. And now I will finally give way and let someone else speak.
John, do you want to give us like an actual match run through there?
Sure. So I guess I like everyone else had absolutely no expectations about what was going to happen. And I don't want to say that I did think that we would win at any point. Well, not at any point. We'll come on to that. But like before the game. But when I saw the team sheets, I did think, I had predicted anyway that we were going to give them a stern test. And then I saw the team sheet and I thought we really are going to give them a stern test here because this is a surprisingly weak team. I said on the Liverpool preview that we did, I think during the live show last week for transfer deadline day, that I expected them to be pretty strong. They played a stronger team against Accrington in the third round than they played yesterday. And I thought it would be absolutely the other way around. I thought they would play a strong team against Accrington. If they played a strong team against Accrington at home, they would logically play an even stronger team against us because we are, Simon Jordan, if you're listening, 2 divisions above Accrington Stanley, not 1. And obviously Home Park is a tough place to go. But no, it was a very weak team. And yeah, obviously, you can look at the fact that they've had 2 more important games, in their opinion, either side of this one. But that argument falls a little bit flat when you consider that one of those games was against Tottenham Hotspur, in my opinion. So, they've maybe rested players for the wrong game of the 3. But no, a very weak side, but still packed with international quality. You've got a front 3 of Chiesa, who's a player I absolutely adore. Don't think he had a good game yesterday. I don't really think any of them had a good game yesterday, but he's obviously a phenomenal player. Diaz and Jota we know all about. Endo is a very tidy player. Tsimikas is good. Kelleher's a very good goalkeeper. Probably would get into most Premier League teams as number 1. So, it was still a proper team, but there were places in it where it looks a bit weak. And obviously, very early on in the game, Joe Gomez goes off with an injury. And I think this was the most surprising thing is they didn't really have a lot on the bench even. I could have understood that starting lineup if they had the cavalry on the substitutes bench, but they had Darwin Núñez, who did eventually come on, and Curtis Jones, who was apparently not fit, which is probably why he did not come on. So yeah, going into the game, I felt that we would, give it a good go. And we did. From the first whistle, we looked hungry, we looked fit, we pressed the ball really, really well. I thought Mustafa Bundu, Hardy will obviously get the headlines, and I know we're going to probably come on to individual player reviews, but given that Sam already gave a little shout out to JB, I'll give one to Bundu. He is not really a number 9. It's not really his game to be that kind of physical target man, but I think he's done it really well in the last couple of games, and he was all over them early on. He obviously had that moment in the box, which I think probably wasn't a penalty, where he's sort of grappling with Tsimikas. I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, to be honest, but showing, good strength and willingness to kind of get in that position. He had a couple where he sort of nudged on or flicked on a ball for Callum Wright or for Hardy. We didn't create a ton of chances that you would describe as seriously threatening their goal. Obviously, Hardy and Puhac have had a couple of pile drivers from about the edge of the box that have been sort of blocked at source and bounced away. But they didn't create anything either. And actually, I think what was quite funny is that, against West Brom, they created one chance in the first half, which was that sort of deflected snapshot from the edge of the box that Hazard made a bit of a meal of saving. Well, Liverpool had exactly the same chance, more or less, a deflected snapshot from the edge of the box that Hazard made a bit of a meal of saving. On both occasions, fortunately, no striker was following in. We were able to get the ball to safety pretty comfortably. And you go into half-time thinking, okay, we're really in this game. We are really, really in this game, especially, again, looking at their bench and thinking they do not have Mo Salah to bring on here. They do not have Van Dijk to bring on, or McAllister, or Gakpo, or Szoboszlai, or Gravenberch. Early in the second half, again, came out really strong. Looked like we wanted to get on the front foot. I thought that was an excellent piece of play by Callum Wright to cut in onto his right foot. And for some reason, playing against Premier League opposition has massively elevated Callum Wright's on-the-ball performance level. I think off the ball, he's proven under was literally he's energetic and good in the press. But I didn't really rate him on the ball last weekend against West Brom, and I think he's not really been decisive enough with the ball at his feet. But yesterday he looked really dangerous, and it's only really a good sort of headed clearance from Endo that has stopped him either setting up a goal or maybe even would have potentially crept in at the back post. So, we want a corner, and then the main instant of the game obviously comes in, I think, the 53rd minute. It is absolute madness from Harvey Elliott. I do not know what he's doing at all. JB has sort of hoiked the ball back in. I think I saw it described as aimless in The Guardian this morning. I'm not sure it was totally aimless. I think Bundu would have had a good chance of competing for it. I think it was sort of arcing up and it was going to sort of drop roughly around the 6-yard area. But it's not like, the most amazing ball. Obviously, he sort of flicked it over his own head. He's not got great visibility into where it's going. Harvey Elliott, for some reason, decides that he's playing beach volleyball, sticks up his hands and, does a lovely block that, of course, is totally illegal in football. It's a definite penalty. And Ryan Hardy steps up and I'm thinking, maybe unfairly, of Chelsea away in the FA Cup a few seasons ago. Obviously, that was also a televised. I think that game was on TV, maybe abroad, not in the UK, but sort of a lunchtime kickoff, big high stakes, pressurized penalty. I'm thinking, will he sort of fluff it again? And I think he did Kelleher with the shape of his body, to be honest, is what it looked like to me. It sort of looks like he shaped his body to roll it in the corner where Kelleher dives. Instead, at the last minute, he's sort of pivoted his body, his legs really fast, and speared it into the other side. Unlike what the commentators said, I personally do think Kelleher would have saved it if he'd gone down the other way, but he didn't. And we had the goal. It was 1-0. And that was a moment where I genuinely did think, you know what? We've had the better of this game. Not only that, but they've created nothing. And we have got the goal. I think we really, really could do this. And then there followed the most agonizing half an hour of my life, where we said before the game, the price of going 1-0 up in an FA Cup tie like that is a day out that's meant to be fun, no consequences, low stress becomes like the most unbelievably stressful circumstance that you could imagine. So I'm just sat there. I genuinely felt physically sick by the end of the game with my head buried in my Uniqlo snood. And then I'm sort of sitting there saying to the person next to me, there'll be 4 or 5 minutes, right? And I have absolutely no idea how, but 9 minutes come up on the board. Absolutely unbelievable. The 9 minutes were added on for a second half in which really very little happened beyond a few substitutions and a goal. It wasn't like there was a massive lengthy injury pause that I can remember, maybe a smaller one. And then you go through the first 5 minutes of extra time, and then I'm thinking, if they score now, this will be so unfair because it feels like the game should be over. And that's, of course, when they have their best 2 chances of the game. One of them, was a shot from distance from Jota. It's a great effort. I think actually it's probably a bit of a save for the cameras from Hazard. I think you would expect him to get across, but he does have to get across, and obviously it's a good save. But then there's that save right at the end from Nunes, which is unbelievable. I mean, to get across that quickly, and I think someone mentioned there was a deflection maybe on the header from Nunes. I couldn't quite get a good view of it, but it's really close range. It's an absolutely phenomenal piece of goalkeeping.
It is. Don't get me wrong.
So then,
but the deflection off Boetang, I think, is going to take it over anyway. I think he just Hazard tips it to make sure, but that's not me taking anything away from Hazard.
Could also, I'm not sure it was going over. It might have come back off the bar, and then obviously, it could be a tap in. It's hard to say, but obviously, then that final corner comes in, and of course, Kelleher gets his head on it, and you're thinking just for one split second, oh my goodness, this is an absolute madness. But no, he plopped it straight down into the hands of Hazard, and that was the moment I think we all knew it was over, and Home Park absolutely erupted. And now I've got through a whole game run through without mentioning Steven Schumacher. It can be done.
Well, it can be done if people don't put comments on the screen and bait you into it. That can't it? Yes, without a doubt. And Aaron, when you asked me to John to do a proper run through, I then did do a proper run through, and then you asked John to do another run through. So we've now done 23 minutes on run throughs.
Yeah, well,
John's come on.
Anyone need a run through?
Want to relive it?
Yeah.
So Adam, do you just want to give us a run through of the 1-0 win over?
Yeah, do you know what? I feel like it's not been covered enough, so we'll do. Oh, look, I'm happy to take it from a more of an angle of for us and for the people who were lucky enough to be there. Because I think this game as a whole is an example of what sport can do and how it can bring people together. I know both for myself and a lot of others, there's been a lot happening in the last couple of months, both good and bad. And I count myself lucky in a lot of ways, in the sense that I know other people's roller coasters or whatever you want to call them are going to be a lot steeper than mine. I look at the interview with excellent interview with Muslic in the build-up to this game, talking about his childhood and what he went through as a refugee from Bosnia. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I didn't have to leave my home at 9 years of age to escape war. I think it's a remarkable story, and I count myself lucky as well, really, to have been there yesterday. I mean, you've got, what is it? The crowd of 16,500, something like that, and 13,000 of which, shall we say, were there to support Argyle. And every one of those 13,000 will have their own story. There have been people there who were riding a crest of a wave in their life. There will be people there who were, really,
Let's get
really
them all to do a
struggling
run
for
through.
whatever reason. Yeah, we've got plenty of time, I hear. We're only 25 minutes in, so there's at least 3 run-throughs to go. But you know, the I think this is, as I say, with everybody there and with everybody you know, experiencing different things. This is the example of what sport can do in bringing people together. The way that everybody can leave that game and say, yeah, I've witnessed something special today. Only sport can do that. I feel incredibly privileged, actually, to have been able to be there, to have experienced that. And I'm so thankful to everyone at Argyle, to a man, who made that happen. It's something that there can always be debates, and we will have debates, of course, on this podcast going on through this season and beyond about what it means for the season, what it means for the club, etc. But just at this moment in time, to have gone through that 90 minutes that has been run through so excellently twice now, and come out of it with the emotions that we did, I think it's something that is going to live with me for as long as I live, and I'm sure that for the majority of the 13,000 Argyle fans there, it'll be the same as well. To be able to see it, to be able to experience it, and to be able to talk with you guys about it, has been an absolute privilege. And I mean, we've got another draw in the 5th round, I know, so we may well be having this conversation again in just a few weeks' time. But right now, it's impossible not to enjoy. And I mean, considering where we're all coming from, considering the season we've had, it's remarkable, and only sport can do that.
Can I intervene just quickly for a question for the viewers, if they can put their collective heads together in the stream? John's comment on Chaser made me think of a message that my mate sent me, which he's now reminded me of today. When was the last time a former Euros winner played at Home Park? Because I was all set to ask this question, thinking Alexis McAllister would play, saying when was the last time a World Cup winner played at Home Park? Which I think we decided with a chat with someone else was Ozzy Ardiles for Spurs. But in terms of the
who like Argyle is on his way to Wembley.
Yeah, but in terms of the last time a Euro played at Home Park, when would that be then? Any advances?
Oh, I don't know. It's not like we've got.
Did Hillick play at Home Park for Chelsea? When did they come down to Home Park in that era? That's what Richard Snowman said.
96 in a pre-season friendly.
Yeah, well, I suppose Ardiles was a friendly, wasn't he? So we have to count that. Yeah, fair enough.
We do. So that's a nice little side quest you got going on there. If anybody knows, maybe when we at Home Park. Sorry, I was going to say when we played Real Madrid away, but that doesn't count because that wasn't at Home Park. That was in Austria. I know John's already sort of touched on it. That the starting lineup. I do want to touch on Liverpool for a minute. When the lineups were announced, like John, I tweeted, we're having these today, and I fully expected, hundreds of quote tweets telling me that I was an idiot after the 6th goal went in. Turns out I was correct, and then nobody really cared. So, I don't get predictions right very often, as you lot know. Managed to get that one on the head. It just felt like, Adam, that they didn't really respect us. And their fans saying, well done, you beat our C side, whatever, academy side. But let's just go through it a second. Chiesa, Italian international. Jota, Portuguese international. Diaz, Colombian international. Gomez, England international, sort of, at a stretch. Kelleher, Republic of Ireland international. Fair enough, they're not, not the greatest side in world football, but still. Tsimikas, Greek international. Endo, Japanese international. They're not, that side's not terrible, but
it's not, and it reminds me a lot actually of what happened in 2017 when we were told, "Oh, brilliant, well done, lads, you've secured a draw with Liverpool's kids." Those kids, including the likes of Roberto Firmino, Adam Lallana, and Daniel Sturridge, and Coutinho, of course, in the reverse fixture. So those comments are obviously all very salty and a bit of copium on their end, which I guess is fair enough when you've just had your quadruple dreams crushed. But I think it's I agree a lot with what John said, actually. I don't necessarily think the starting lineup surprised me quite as much, but I was very, very surprised, given the lineup, that there wasn't the cavalry, as it were, on the bench. I think it's one of those games where you expect to see, okay, maybe an hour in, Liverpool would hope to be a couple of goals up and take it easy. But if they weren't, which they weren't, then they ought to have given themselves the opportunity to say, okay, we'll introduce Mo Salah for half an hour, or we'll introduce a number of those talents that they have that just didn't travel. So yeah, it was. Would I call it disrespectful? Maybe. I think at the very least it was naive, and I think it's something that I'd be surprised if we saw again from Slot's Liverpool in future seasons in a game like this. They will no doubt rotate, as to be fair is their right, and not being in the FA Cup may well help them win the other three. That they could see that as a very successful season, but I don't think we're going to see it again where Slot himself will come to a game like this and not at the very least have some tricks up his sleeve, not at the very least give himself the likes of, I've mentioned Salah, Gakpo, etc., who can come on and swing the game in their favour. So, yeah, disrespectful, naive, whatever word you want to use. It was a surprising decision. Don't get me wrong, it's still a team where the vast majority would get into every championship side. The vast majority would get into any Premier League side. It's a huge upset, whatever you consider the strength of that side compared to your everyday Liverpool to be. But yeah, it was clearly an error of judgment, and yeah, I imagine he'll think twice next time.
I have a name.
Yes,
someone.
Yeah.
So this would be someone who won the Euros after playing at Home Park, but it is quite recent. Morgan Schneiderlin.
When did he win the Euros?
France 2016.
The Portugal one, you mean?
That's
Well
a
done.
gap.
Shocker, yeah. It's absolute shocker.
Back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
I thought, okay. But in my defense, I mentally erased Portugal winning that tournament because it was so fucking undeserved and boring, a bit like Burnley.
Taking a good hit tonight. Just because Katic said it doesn't mean we all can. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big gaff. You said that with such confidence as well, didn't you? But yeah, the point made in the comments though is that our dealers did actually play in a league game for Blackburn. It wasn't a friendly, so yeah, we've had a World Cup winner playing a competitive game, but I don't know about a Euros winner.
Yeah, that's nice.
Apart from the one that just has, you mean?
Apart from in Tilkiater.
But anyway, yeah, brilliant. Moving on, Sam. Whilst we're on Liverpool, just one thing we do need to touch on, I suppose, is the atmosphere. Not a massive fan of us chanting "Where's your famous atmosphere" when they're at Home Park, and I had to agree with some of the Liverpool tweeters that were questioning our decision to sing that. But still, fair enough. Anything for the likes, I suppose. Thoughts on their atmosphere? Because like going from Liverpool at home where they're dead to Man City away where the atmosphere will also be dead. Mate, I just wanted Villa or United or just a bit more of something.
I don't think United would have been much better in terms of atmosphere, not for a game like that, really. Yeah, I mean, obviously they weren't very loud, were they? But they were louder than the Brentford home fans were in round 3. At least we heard a couple of rounds of "You'll Never Walk Alone." It wasn't, it wasn't very many, but at least I heard them from the Devonport end occasionally. Yeah, more than I heard the Brentford fans in round 3. But the Home Park atmosphere was absolutely bouncing again. Even the lower Mayflower was singing, jumping up and down, clapping. It was one of those days, like that Leicester game last season, where the atmosphere just roared the team over the line. And I honestly think we all, talk about it being a bit of a cliche. It can make such a big difference, and it did. We were loud as anything, and yeah, I think their fans just weren't really up for it. The famous atmosphere song was a little silly for the reason you say, but the Liverpool fans also criticised us for singing "We're in Your Head, Arnie," as they thought we were singing, which we were absolutely, in fact, not singing that at all.
Yeah, just a clarification. When I said United, I did actually mean Newcastle, and I know nobody calls Newcastle United, so I don't know why I did that. But anyway, beyond the point. I know Joe, the other one, likes to get you all to pick one player to discuss, but I feel like I just need to go through them all, really. I'm not sure unless there's anybody you specifically want to pick out as a negative, which I don't think is very fair after beating Liverpool in the FA Cup. I'm sure Joe would find somebody to moan about. But
I genuinely have one, but I'm gonna not mention it because it feels.
You're not going to mention Johnny at all, are you?
No,
it wasn't Johnny actually.
At all, are you?
It wasn't Johnny. Nope.
Oh,
but I'm not.
okay.
I'm saying no more. I'm saying no more. It's uncharitable.
He's not going to mention Obafemi at all.
No, John. Why don't you just pick one then? Start with them, and we'll just go around them all.
All right. So I've already mentioned Bundu earlier, and I sort of mentioned Callum Wright. So I will finally mention Hardy to complete the review of the front three that I'm doing with myself. Seems a bit of an obvious one to highlight, given that he got the winning goal. But I actually also think, in some respects, the sort of glory of that performance is going to rebound more onto the defence than the attack, given that we kept an unbelievable team, albeit one playing their ex-team at bay for the entire game. Hardy, put away the penalty with ice in his veins. Had that really good shot, which Sam mentioned, which was imperceptibly saved by Kelleher in the ground. I don't know if you were able to notice that, Sam, and I'm adding from where you were sat, but from my angle, didn't really look like Kelleher got anything on that. It looked like it had just got onto the post and behind, but I thought that was a really sharp effort. I think he was offside, and VAR would probably have caught that if it was in operation, but of course it wasn't. But I just think behind the thing that I'm most impressed with is that he's changed position, right, under Muslic. He's always been, and Sam will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure, but I believe he's always been an out-and-out striker for Argyle, be that in a two or sort of ploughing a lone furrow up front. I don't think he's ever had that sort of more withdrawn role where he's played as effectively a sort of number 10 come winger in behind a big target man. But he looks like he's been playing it all his life. He, was positionally just so on it yesterday. His pressing, his off the ball work was absolutely impeccable, as I thought was the case for all three of them across the front line. But I think we've actually just discovered a new position that seems to really, really work for him. And to be honest, I think that Al-Haj and Beidou are going to have a hard time getting back in that team at the moment, because Wright's off the ball work, which obviously we know is so important to Muslic, has been impeccable, and so is Ryan Hardy. So yeah, actually that was the thing that impressed me the most about him, not the goal or even the shot that hit the post, but just that sort of general off the ball work and that positional nous to slot into a completely new role that he's only done, I think, once before, and that was off the bench against West Brom. Possible, I guess, that he has played in that sort of role, or maybe one or two other occasions that I can't remember. But it's not really his.
I genuinely don't remember it. Like in the
I don't think so.
In the title-winning season, when we transitioned to 3-4-3 from being previously 3-5-2, I remember there was a game when Hardy and Ennis both started, and I actually thought, oh, okay, interesting. He's gone Hardy as the wide forward. I quite like that. But actually, it was Ennis as the wide forward, and it was Hardy central. So, he who must not be named did generally tend to prefer Ennis as the wide forward and Hardy central in most games, didn't he? So, honestly, it may have happened once briefly at the end of the game, but I don't think he's ever played as like a wide forward or an inside forward before Hardy until this came in. And it seems like an absolute stroke of genius from Muslic that he's done that. Sometimes a manager comes in and he can just elevate a player to a new level because he sees something in that player that no other manager has up to that point. I'm thinking when John Sheridan came in and immediately elevated Conor Hurrain to the next level is probably the best example I have of that. I think you could even maybe say when Ryan Lowe came in and maybe not the best example, but because obviously he didn't play for Argyle before, but immediately got more out of George Cooper than he'd ever had at any of his previous clubs. When Schumacher came in and got more out of Danny Mair than Lowe did. That's one of many examples. Even going back when Ian Holloway came in and got far more out of David Norris than he'd ever got before. And hopefully the next in that long list could be Miran Muslic and Ryan Hardy, because this wide forward role, like John said, off the ball, the intensity, the pressing, the threatening balls into the box in wide areas, outstanding. And I think it's just such a shame that we know that we sometimes see Ryan on the Barbican, but it's such a shame we've got a game on a Wednesday, because the whole squad deserved to go out and let their hair down, but obviously weren't going to because we've got a game on Wednesday night. But they absolutely all to a man deserved to. and hopefully they'll get a chance to do it after the Man City win, because we've not got a midweek after that one.
Anyway, yes, Hardy, brilliant. Obviously, we need to praise Wayne Rooney for developing his finishing.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'm
delighted for him. Nobody will get.
Well, I think people will get it. They saw, well, Hardy in a press conference said that Rooney had massively improved his finishing, which was then quoted in a Guardian article about Rooney, I think completely uncritically. Presumably the journalist who wrote that hadn't looked at Hardy's goal scoring stats in the Wayne Rooney.
I think Hardy said it in pre-season, didn't he? Talking about training, and then
don't think so. No, I think it was like November or December. So anyway, maybe I'm sure that he scores a lot of goals in training. Look, we know he's a streaky player, but he's on a hot streak at the moment, and I'm hoping that it can be something more durable than that, because I do think this new position suits him really well. Yeah, great stuff. Loved it.
Adam, I was going to give you a choice, but I'm not actually.
Oh.
Thoughts on Nikola Katic?
I'm glad, because if there was to be a choice, that would have been right. Nikola Katic. I mean, where has this guy been all my life? It was incredible.
Scotland, and then he went to.
You put yourself under pressure now, haven't you? Yeah, you try to land that, and now look at yourself. Disgrace. Anyway, Katic, I'm not going to give him the number of my dentist for his own sake, but I think the way that he lost it. I mean, has anybody lost a tooth and then put a performance in like that? I seriously doubt it. It's absolutely outstanding what he managed yesterday. The
22. To be fair, Hardy smashed his head open at Portsmouth away and then stuck two in the back of the net. So maybe it's just an injury thing.
Maybe. Ultimately, if somebody can break various things on our players' heads on the way into games, maybe we'll perform, or perhaps not. I mean, one of the two. But I'll let you test that one. His 22 defensive actions, as I say, which I've not seen this in. I think it's somewhat unprecedented in Argyle since I've been looking at these stats. Anyway, the way that he just put himself everywhere, and the way also actually that he doesn't seem to care who's in the way. If the ball's in the penalty area, Nikola Katic is getting his head on it. If you happen to be in front of him, well, tough luck. You're not getting your head on it, because Nikola Katic is here. It's an incredible display, as I say. And if it's a sign of how he's going to be for the rest of the season, then my way of, or the way of saying, oh, we shouldn't fall in love with a lone player is going to fall apart very, very quickly. Because I think I'm in love with this bloke already. But I just, there is another part of me who thinks, okay, in another life, we hired Miran Muslic at another time when Dan Scar was still around, and he'd be able to absolutely thrive in the system in a similar way to that what Katic has. There's clearly importance on that, and it suits his skills excellently. But I mean, that is what it is for what we've got now, and for what we needed actually in this team from the transfer window. Katic seems to fit this system like a glove, and there'll be debates, of course there will, about how he was brought in, how late he was brought in, and I know those debates were had at length on last week's stream, so I won't rehash them all. But from looking at that yesterday, and from looking at what he offers to this side, I am thrilled that he's here, and I hope he can keep himself fit, toothless or otherwise, for the rest of the season, and he could have a serious positive impact on the rest of this. What happens after that? I mean, hey, they say never fall in love with a lone player. We might never see him again, but he'll have left his mark. Of that, there's no doubt.
Do we know if we've got an option to buy on Katic?
I believe not. I believe it was announced that it was a straight loan. Not to say that can't be revisited, obviously. But right now there's no option in the deal at all.
How much money did we make from yesterday? Do you reckon? Can we just drop that straight on him?
Well, probably a bit more now after the draw of today, and the guarantee of ticket revenue that brings as well. But as somebody said to me in the Dolphin last night, I can't quite remember who it was, John, can you? But as somebody said in the Dolphin pub last night, FA Cup revenue isn't quite as meaningful as it once was, because the percentage of it compared to what we get from TV money is more negligible. So that Welsh's Cup run is certainly beneficial. It's not quite the deal breaker that it was in League Two when we played Liverpool home and away in 2 TV games and 2 lots of attendance money and all that. That basically at that point essentially made our budget. demonstrably higher than what it would have been. Whereas this cup run, certainly was welcome, is proportionately lesser relative to our money we get from other sources. It's worth pointing that out. The Welsh is welcome. It's probably not going to suddenly mean we're going to be splashing the cash left, right, and centre. If we do start splashing the cash left, right, and centre, try saying that with your teeth in, it will be more likely because of the Whittaker sale and because of money that we've had from TV that we've not spent up to now, rather than because of the cup run per se.
Sam, I feel like I skipped you when we were talking about players, so I'm going to come back to you. Do you want Sorinola or do you want Pleguezuelo?
Can I do both? Can I do both?
Go on then. You do both.
I cannot think of a player, and the only one who got mentioned to me in a group chat last night was Durrell Berry, purely given how bad he was when he started. But that's one side. I can hardly think of any player who has improved during their time with Plymouth Argyle to the same level as Matti Sorinola. The level of improvement we've seen from him has been absolutely extraordinary. I think when he first came in under Ian do you not agree?
No, don't get me wrong. Like, he has improved massively, but you're making out like he was terrible when he first came in.
Well, I'm not making out like he was terrible, but I don't think he was great.
Not since Durrell Berry.
Well, it's all relative to the league. I don't think he was terrible, but I don't think he was great. Whereas now, he's not only got to the level of being good, he's sort of skipped good. He's gone straight from like middling to outstanding the last few games. I think that last season when he came in under Foster, I don't think he was terrible, but I think he made quite a few mistakes, quite a few to be overcommitted, quite a few where his end product wasn't.
It's not often that the chat say I'm correct, Sam, so I'm going to take
the chat back down. Okay, but let's, irrespective of how good he was, the levels he's reached are absolutely incredible. I know that some people have said, Sorinola doesn't stop. Defending was immense. I absolutely agree with that. Never need to give that a cramp. His work rate, his work ethic, everything about him is absolutely outstanding. People are saying I should be kicked for saying that Sorinola wasn't too great when he started. That's a bit harsh in my view, but maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, so we'll call that 1-1. But yeah, he has been, since his little run in the team, he has been absolutely outstanding, and it makes it all the more baffling that he barely got any minutes at all under Wayne Rooney. And I tell you now, despite what a great 2024 Joe Edwards had, I don't think Joe Edwards comes back in straight away. I think he has to fight for that space from Sorinola, because Sorinola has been absolutely incredible, both in the defensive sense, but certainly in the offensive sense as well. Obviously, he made that nice assist, found Whittaker in space for the Brentford goal. I know that people might argue that was actually more of an individual brilliant goal, but let's not forget Whittaker probably had a chance to shoot earlier than he could have done. So it was Sorinola who picked him out in that good space. He whatever people feel about how good he was last season, he has been absolutely sublime. The levels of work rate, the fact he never leaves without an injury or cramp of some kind, runs himself into the ground, puts himself in the way of everything. Pleguezuelo as well. I think
just quickly, I need to submit a Matthew Sorinola apology form. Specifically yesterday, I said in the pub before the game that I would bring Mumba in for him because I felt that while Sorinola had been very good of late, I just felt that Mumba's ceiling was higher than Sorinola's, and I just had images of Sorinola even at his very best up against Chiesa or whoever Liverpool were going to play, just getting sort of tied in knots, left behind for pace. And I just felt that Mumba, even though he's been less consistent recently, would have a higher ceiling in dealing with that type of player, and that was completely wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, completely. Pleguezuelo, I mean, look, it's easy when they're doing these kind of things just to use the same, superlative, same words again and again. Incredible, great passion, great fighting. I want to say that with Pleguezuelo, the thing to really hone in on with him is the discomfort zone of being out of his best position. He's a player, Muslic does naturally prefer players on their natural side. He's out there on the left of centre-back, but he's been no less good for it. He's been absolutely, again, fantastic this run in the team. He's a player who, maybe with Sorinola, I don't think he was great. I think Pleguezuelo was actually poor last season, in my opinion. And I think he was, I didn't really have much confidence, even when he played under Rooney this season, that he would be or could be part of a successful team. But he's absolutely proven me wrong and made me humble pie. Again, the level of improvement he's shown has been fantastic. We are finally, this last couple of months or two, apart from obviously the shambles of the Burnley game, that was to one side, we are finally seeing why we spent big money on wages on this lad from the Dutch league. To lure him over to the Championship, because he has been nothing short of incredible on recent form. And if he can keep that going, I don't think that back three are going to give away many goals for the rest of the season. And from basically writing us off for survival, I'm far more confident, even though it wasn't a league game, I'm far more confident of survival now than I was going into yesterday. Because if this is the level we can play to, and I know we'll probably have some bad days as well. We'll have some days where it doesn't quite work and doesn't quite come together. But the level
never having a bad day again in my life, Sam. This week is like it's enough dopamine for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
not a single bad day ever.
From an anonymous commenter actually saying that the way Sorinola robbed the attacker on the byline and dribbled out was amazing. Yeah, that was a great moment. His pressing, I think everyone's buying into the pressing game of Miran Muslic, but Sorinola even more so than
so
most.
You don't think he's lost dress? You don't think he's lost the dressing room then?
Absolutely not. No. Absolutely
and
not.
John, from Darrell Berry on one side to Robbie Williams on the other, Timotej Puhac, Ninja Matt says, option to buy Polish Tim, quickly turning into one of my favourite players. Like, not even just on the pitch stuff. I don't know if you've seen all the celebrations from the dressing room and stuff. He's an absolute madman. I love him so much. I'd happily start a crowdfunder to get him in on a permanent.
You mentioned Robbie Williams, but I'm loving Puhac instead. Yeah, no, he fell flat, didn't it?
Much like Robbie Williams, he is entertaining me.
Yes, and maybe like we'll have a Puhac biopic in a few years' time where he's played by an animatronic animal, and that's completely baffling. But what would he be? I think maybe a leopard or something like that in the Puhac biopic. Brilliant. He's, as Aaron alludes to, not just on the pitch, but the man's vibes are phenomenal. And there's a serious point to this, right? Which is, under Muslic, and obviously Puhac came in before Muslic came in, and also credit must go to the recruitment team. We see brought in characters, right? Like people who are leaders, people who are confident, people who back themselves, people who are calm under pressure. We've seen that with Katic, as we discussed. We've seen it with Maxi as well, who's another one who absolutely deserves a shout out. And we've seen it with Tim as well. I mean, I just thought he was absolutely perfect yesterday. Less impactful coming forward, as you would expect, than in the West Brom game where he had that absolutely brilliant assist. Against Oxford as well, of course, when he set up the goal for Rami Al-Hajj precisely 5 minutes after Sam had messaged the group chat to say he can't cross the ball. But defensively,
it was impeccably timed, that message, wasn't it, John? Impeccably timed.
Much like a Puhac cross. But no, defensively, he was incredible. I mean, just sort of charged everything down, got to balls, won tackles, didn't give any of Liverpool's attacking threats the slightest sniff. The perfect defensive performance for a fullback, I think I would say, in a sort of 5 or 3, however you want to describe it. Yeah, no, he was brilliant. I'll do Maxi as well quickly, just we're going through everyone, right? He, again,
you crack on.
A man who is a cult hero like Tim, but in Maxi's case, after 2 games rather than 5 or 6, right? I mean, 2 games, 2 wins, 1 goal conceded, pretty much no mistakes. The criticism I would slightly have of Katic is there was an error yesterday, which could have led to a goal if Zip McConnell, I think the player it fell to, that was the one late on where Hazard came out to collect the ball and Katic goes and clears it. Obviously, Katic had the error against West Brom as well, which led to their goal. Fortunately, he was let off the hook yesterday. Don't get me wrong, still an unbelievably high level of performance from him. But Maxi, hasn't put a foot wrong yet, as far as I can tell. And again, he just gets the whole place buzzing. You can see how much he loves defending, loves winning tackles. There was that one that I remember. Well, there was a couple, weren't there? There was the one where he's gone in on Luis Diaz and sort of managed to almost bounced off Luis Diaz and then has watched the ball go over the goal line. You just wasn't giving him any change at all. And there was another one where they looked like they were going to break from an attacking set piece that we had, and he just sort of slides in, comes across, and spears it out. I think I'm right in thinking it was him. So yeah, he wins big tackles. There's a comment that Muslich made as well, right? That we seem to be enjoying defending at the moment. I cannot remember the last time that was true of an Argyle team, and I know certain people on this call probably find this to be philosophically upsetting. But even when things were going well under Schumacher, it wasn't like we were a great defensive side. I guess the last time probably would have been that caretaker spell under Dewsnip at the back end of last season when we were fighting for our lives. But that was a bit more like we're in a dogfight and we have to just shut out everything we can and put our bodies on the line. These lads look like they're genuinely actually enjoying doing it, enjoying winning headers, enjoying winning tackles. Yeah, it's great to see. And long may it continue.
Just everyone except Randall, we've done.
Well, just quickly, I also just wanted to say, can anyone think of two players, by the way, who have come into a team and made as much of a difference as Katic and Maxi in such a short space of time? It is extraordinary. I don't think I can really remember that at any club, let alone Argyle. And one of the first things Muslich said, what did Muslich say when he came in? He basically said, as far as I can recall, in terms of his playing, in terms of like things we needed to do right away, he said two things. He said, we're going to get up the pitch and we're going to become hard and nasty to play against, and teams are not going to enjoy the prospect of playing against us. And we've gone from a team that were pathetically low down the pitch and also were incredibly easy to play against, at least about half the time, because we were psychologically and physically weak. And he has transformed both of those things in a month. It is absolutely extraordinary. We are pressing high up, and we are clearly teams are not enjoying coming up against us now. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
The only two I'm going to raise that could even be in the ballpark is Percy and Blanchard. When we had that terrible team in the early time of the season after administration, those two both came in on the same day. Actually, I think those two were signed, and they both made us much better defensively and helped with our survival out of League Two. That would have seen the club drop into the conference. So I'd say those two maybe on a par. But yeah, that's it really. Can we have some words for Randall, Aaron?
Yeah, go on. I'm about to come to you on that. Go on.
Okay.
All I'm going to say on Adam Randall is I want to have his babies. Carry on.
Yeah. I mean, he maybe he goes a little bit under the radar just because of how brilliant JB was next to him, but he was still really, really good from everything except dead ball situations, I guess. He will maybe not say so much about the corners, but from open play, he was fantastic. Again, he just did the stuff that he always does so well. In the off the ball pressing from him is remarkable. He's always been a player who will make it so very, very tough off the ball. He won't give anyone any chance. He'll get up, he'll get right in someone's face. He'll scuffle and tussle with them and challenge them. And in a style of play under a manager who really values that pressing style, you can see he takes to it like a duck to water. I think Randall is one of those players who is a manager's player. Managers love him because he'll run the heart out for the team. He'll be a good positive presence. He'll be a good attitude on the pitch. And he's also a bit of an all-rounder. He is that brilliant off-the-ball presser, but he also has some moments of real quality on the ball. It's just the corners, he probably shouldn't be on them. But yeah, everything in open play in that game, he was superb. He was taken off, which did surprise me a little bit. It didn't surprise me that he was taken off over JB, because JB, as I mentioned earlier, was having the absolute game of his life. And you don't bring off a player when he's having such a good game as that. But it did maybe surprise me that we took Randall off as well, because he was playing pretty well. But Malachy Boetang came on, and he was really good in his short little spell. And obviously Jordan Houghton, who's been so good in the 2 games before, didn't even get on the pitch. So promising signs for the central midfield. If JB's coming back into that strength, Randall's put in another good performance again. Since his calamity in the first half to Burnley, he's been really good since then. So Randall on good form, JB putting in the best we've seen of him, Houghton having a game off but really good up to then, and Boetang had a promising 20 minutes. He was running everywhere, chasing everywhere, same as JB was, making it, getting in the way, trying to make interceptions, and even if he didn't make the interception, he would close off the passing lane and force him to go back. Incredible.
Yeah, Adam, I do want to touch on Malachi, whose name I've since learned how to pronounce, and it's not Malaki, apparently. Obviously, we saw him briefly on his debut. You've done a piece on him, which I'm going to be honest. Normally, the second I see one of your what to expect pieces drop, I sit there and read it all word for word. I haven't done that with Boetang yet. What can we expect from him? And because I thought he was quite good yesterday.
Yeah, and you've saved yourself by saying you usually read them, which warms my heart. So you can treat yourself to that one after this, I'm sure. I think it's obviously very difficult to judge in about 20 minutes, and it's even more difficult to judge when he's playing against Liverpool. So, but I think the easiest thing you can say about him is that he didn't come in and suddenly look out of place at all. He did everything he needed to well. He won a couple of his battles, which is what he's there to do, and it is what he's going to need to do going forward. I mean, in terms of what we can expect from him generally, based on what he's done in the last half season at Hearts, he wins a ton of aerial duels. Like he in the air. I mean, he's not the tallest player we've signed in the last 18 months, considering what we did last winter as well. But he is.
He said he looks quite short, which he definitely doesn't. So
yeah, I possibly wouldn't go that far, but I mean, he at the very least, he's not got the Maxi or Katic height to him, but his technique in getting up in the air and winning those duels, to my eye at least, is very, very good, and that's something that I think we have been lacking. I think in a midfield. I think JB, we've spoken about today, is had an excellent game, and I want to reiterate that as well. It's fantastic. Yesterday, I've been a bit disappointed in the way that he does go about those aerial duels, simply because of his height and the way you'd expect him to be that sort of player. Statistically, I mean, he's fine, but he's not outstanding. And Boetang, in his time in Scotland, has been outstanding in the way that he wins the ball in the air, and defensively and in the tackle, he's shown good numbers on. Now, there's a massive caveat to all of this, in that he's done this in the top flight in Scotland, which is a much, much weaker league than the first tier, the second tier rather, in England. And particularly in his case, if what he's so good at is winning duels, if what he's so good at is getting in the face of the opposition, I'm curious to see whether that will still be the case when those opponents that he's facing are better. Obviously, you can't get a much better start than what he's done yesterday, doing what he needed to do against a team 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League. But in the week to week, I'm interested to see how it'll go. It's a 3.5-year deal, and I think across 3.5, a player who's 22 years of age and has clearly got a lot of stuff that has got the Argyle data team to pay attention, and I are very much an amateur when it comes to this, can see why. But in 3.5 years, I think he's gonna have a very big impact. Can he do that in the Championship immediately? That's what remains to be seen. But he could hardly have started better, I think, in the cameo we saw yesterday. If that's a sign of things to come, I'm very happy.
Nice. There's only a couple of things that I want to touch on really briefly. So you've mentioned them, some of them already. You lot absolutely loved pretty much everything about yesterday. The fact that Home Park was absolutely buzzing. I seem to know basically everyone there. Every Argyle fan I've ever met seemed to turn up for this one. Obviously the incredible celebrations. The night out, well, both of them really. I mean, the Barbican wasn't as busy as it should have been if it was a Saturday game. I wouldn't have even been able to get served, I don't think. But absolutely brilliant. It's just brilliant to see Plymouth going so positively on a national or global scale, even just down to things like the mascots.
Quickly, I was going to say on the globe.
That's good. You said that and froze, so I'm just going to mute you and leave you there. The mascots being the kids as the players. The women's team reaction on the coach, just everything about the day. Just absolutely love every single second of it, and it's absolutely brilliant. One thing I hate, though, and I don't know who's going to be most opinionated on this, half and half shirts. Are we allowing that?
I'm probably not one to talk about anything of that nature, given the decorative half and half scarf display in the kitchen downstairs, which I sometimes have as my background. But I'm not a big lover of wearing hat. I feel that just purely for the sake of. Oh, John's gone. John's having Wi-Fi. Why am I always on the big screen when it's three of us?
You are the big man.
Okay. Yeah. Where was I? Oh yeah. I mean, I feel that when you're, obviously not everyone wears club colours. I get that, but I feel that it shouldn't be colours of another club in your home end. I think you should either wear neutral colours or it should be a sea of green. You shouldn't have a bright red thing, even if it is a half and half shirt in the home end. It's not for me. Like I say, the half and half scarves, I wouldn't ever wear them to a game. Like I said, they're for decoration purposes in the kitchen. I wouldn't ever wear them to a game, but I kind of think, if you're wearing it to a game, it's something that's just sort of tucked in a bit. It's around the coat. You don't really see the red, but yeah, I wasn't a great lover of the half and half shirts because it was too much red for the home end, I guess. But I'm just sure that I'm not bothered. It's
I'm
whatever.
just sure there are rules about colours in home ends and stuff, and shouldn't. I mean, I don't really care.
It's a grey area. You're never going to kick anyone out for wearing a half and half shirt, are you?
But you'd kick them out if it was a full shirt.
You kick them out. Yeah, but that's a bit of. I'm not a fan of it, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't be a big talking point. We won. We had an amazing day, fantastic performance. We actually got something positive to feel for the first time in about a year. If people want to wear that and look daft, let them. It's fine by me.
Although the only thing I will say about home colours in the away end, I just have an unbelievable knack, not deliberately at all, of wearing the home colours in the away end. So like Preston wore a white shirt, and then at Hull I wore an orange one with a very floral jacket, and then I don't know why I do that.
You wore a tiger onesie at Hull, did you?
Yeah, no, I actually wore a William Morris jacket up at Hull alongside an orange Nike t-shirt. John, is there anything you guys want to add on Manchester City before we move on? On Liverpool before we move on to Manchester City and the game in between.
I was going to say my most cancelable football opinion is that I think half and half scarves are fine.
Okay, well, I'm glad you froze. Anything else to add on Liverpool?
All good, I think.
Oh, that's good then. Should we talk about Man City first, or do you want to talk about Millwall first?
Whilst we're on the FA Cup, let's just touch on the Man City game, and then we can divert our attention back to the league.
Initial thoughts, Sam?
I was actually watching it with my AirPods in on the bus coming home from work, and I'd muted certain apps that would pop up because I know that when you're watching on your phone, it's a bit behind the actual TV. So I didn't want it to be spoiled for me. And I was like, right, Burnley and Preston, didn't want either of those two. They're out of the way early. Thank goodness for that. I was kind of really hoping for Man United. Quite excited when we know the defeat that we could be then. We'd be going to. Then I saw Newcastle. I was like, yeah, I'll take that. I've been there. Wouldn't be a new ground, but would be a great occasion, great revenue. So then Man United went by, Newcastle went by, then Bournemouth come up, and I thought, not really, but I saw Ipswich down. I was worried because Ipswich was still there with us. And I thought, well, rather Bournemouth than Ipswich, could at least then, it's a shorter trip. It's a ground people haven't been to in a while. It's a bit more of a novelty. Then Bournemouth come out, and then it was Argyle, Ipswich, obviously Man City, and I can't remember who the last one was. It was Exeter Forest. It was Exeter and Forest. So I thought, right, when Man City come out, like, please, goodness, don't be Exeter and not Forest, because that means we're playing Ipswich. And then, when Argyle came out for a trip to Man City, absolute delight. It's just like a day for such a bad.
On the bus. Did everybody go mad?
No, it was quite an empty bus, in truth. But for an absolute, stinker really of a season up to about Christmas time with a few bright spots, not many. For an absolute stinker of a season, this new year has been absolute chaos, hasn't it? From the carnage of that first week with the manager hire, the Brentford win, and then thinking, oh no, is it another false dawn? hitting that rock bottom in the upturn since. I feel I've been completely through the ringer and back this last 5-6 weeks. I feel like I've seen all the highs, lows, and jubilation and excitement in this past 6 weeks of supporting Argyle. And obviously now with the latest news, we're gonna play yet another one of the most, one of the best teams in the world, the reigning Premier League champions, for goodness sake, treble winners a couple of years ago. We're going to be going there playing them. That's yet another new ground that I'm going to tick off. That's going to put me on to 82 out of 92 when I go to Man City. So it will just be 10 more to tick off after Man City. Going to be another great occasion. Manchester's a great town for drinking, for those who like to indulge in that kind of thing. So, yeah, another great experience. Some more great players we're going to be playing. And it does mean Hull away is going to be on a Tuesday. So that's more time off work I've got to get. And it's going to be a trip to Hull on a Tuesday night on the Banana Bus. But that's fine. That's just all part of the experience. I do wonder how many will take the Hull away on a Tuesday. I reckon.
Are you going to get mauled on a Tuesday?
What's that?
Are you going to get mauled on a Tuesday?
We might get mauled on a Tuesday. I reckon that could be sub 500 Hull on a Tuesday night, but we'll see. Just excited for another chapter of this roller coaster of a season. And honestly, like with the wobbles Man City have had, maybe, just maybe, stranger things have happened. We might do it again.
Maybe.
Yeah, very good. Maybe. If it was at
Gonna
home,
be Randall and JB.
Very good.
After all, we play Muslage ball.
Yeah, great chant. If it was at Home Park, I'd be a lot more confident. Away, I think they'll surely have too much for us, but who knows? Honestly, who knows? Maybe we'll do it.
I just cannot wait. I think it's mentioned in the group chat, but I cannot wait for Pep
Guardiola
after spanking us 7-0 and saying, guys, Plymouth, guys. Just cannot wait. Is that what you were about to say, John?
Will he learn from Miron Muslage? I was going to ask if he will learn from Miron Muslage.
Yeah.
Yes
hopefully.
or no?
Hopefully. Oh, it's a very quick practical point about the game. Quick practical point for those who are planning hotels, trains, that kind of thing. It will almost certainly be on the Saturday. As we correctly predicted, the Liverpool game will be on the Sunday. It will all, as it's been helpfully pointed out to me in my DMs this evening, it will almost certainly be on the Saturday. Reason being, City are playing on the Wednesday, so that rules out obviously the Thursday, rules out the Friday, and they are, if they beat Real Madrid in the Champions League, they will have their round of 16 tie on the Tuesday, so that rules out the Sunday and the Monday. So it will be the Saturday. I think it's got Saturday tea time at BBC all over it. Maybe the 5:30. Maybe even the 7:45, but I think it will be the Saturday. I hope it's not the Saturday morning because I don't. Well, the Saturday lunchtime, whatever.
So unlikely to be Saturday morning. I would have thought.
Yeah, I hope it's not the Saturday lunchtime game because that wouldn't be great. But I think it's got primetime BBC all over it. Maybe it'll be the 5:30. Maybe it'll be the 7:45 p.m. And I think it'll be a great occasion. I think we'll sell it out without a doubt. I think it's yet to be confirmed how many we'll get. I think I've seen some people say about 7,500. I've seen some people say 9,000. I think even if it is 9,000, I think we'll sell that out. And I think if it's 7,500, it might not even go as far as Evergreen, in my opinion. I think it will be incredibly high demand. I think everyone and a dog will want to go. And I think we're going to take the noisiest following to the Etihad all season.
Nice. Sam, just to, there's too many in-jokes on this pod as it is. Shouldn't really laugh at the comments. Am I Ted Lasso here? What's going on?
No, Ted Lasso is the American fella who we met in Pop World, remember?
No.
Yes, he doesn't.
You might be watching our pod, and hello if you are. I won't name you, but you know who you are.
Have you got a shout out that you need to do?
What?
Have you got a shout out that you need to do?
I do have two shout outs I need to do. I've got a shout out to Tara and Vanessa, who are huge fans of the pod, who spoke to me outside the Devonport end yesterday. And I've got a shout out in Pop World to Archie, who said I can outdrink Pieface. Yes, you're right, Archie. I can outdrink Pieface.
Well, that's not particularly hard.
That's something to be proud of.
No,
it is.
Adam, anything you want to touch on the City game?
Oh, I don't think there's much that hasn't been already covered. I mean, it is. I agree totally with Sam. Another chapter in what is becoming a crazy 2025 for Plymouth Argyle. I mean, if you thought the roller coaster was done after that weekend where it was going to be Schumacher, then it was Muslich, then it was Brentford, then it was Liverpool. Yeah, it sounds like you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, with all of these, obviously, and with yesterday it being exactly the same, it's going to be a wonderful occasion, whatever happens. And I don't think there's going to be there's going to be loads of us going up. I've no doubt. I'm not sure there will be many going up expecting us to get a result, but I didn't expect us to get a result against Brentford. I didn't expect us to get a result against Liverpool, and here we are. Who knows? It's going to be a wonderful day either way, and just reward actually. As much of the way that Liverpool game and the occasion of Liverpool yesterday was reward for what we did at Brentford, this is just reward for what we did against Liverpool in getting ourselves to this point, to getting up to the last 16 of the FA Cup, which I think it would be an understatement to say we do not do very often. So yeah, I know there are battles to come before we go to the Etihad. I know there's important games between now and the end of the season that
Do you
aren't in the FA
want
Cup.
to roll on to the Millwall preview?
Shall I? Yeah, Yeah, while I'm here. Yeah,
Do you want to just
two
give us a
more.
run through?
Yeah. Well, I'm 3 days out. I'll give it my best shot. Now between now and Man City, I don't know how many games exactly there are. They're all obviously going to be completely vital. Millwall is one of them, and I am interested to see how this goes, because I think the best parts of what we've seen under Miran Muslic so far have been the ones where we're facing opponents who, in say Sunderland, West Brom, and Liverpool, who, I mean, some would say were taking us for granted. So I think it would at least be a case to say that each of those started as the favourites in the game, and we were able to outfight them on a lot of the occasions to get the results that we have. Millwall are a team that you do not outfight easily, shall we say? It's perhaps a little bit. It could be a bit reminiscent, not just because it's an evening game, of what we saw against Oxford, where there wasn't much in it. There was a couple of well-taken goals, but it was a bit of a battle, and I expect a bit of a battle again. I expect we'll be better than we were against Oxford for a lot of reasons. We've had a little bit of time on the training ground. We've brought in players who at this moment look like wonderful new signings for the system, and we could very much go against Millwall and get a result and keep the mood high. It could also end up being a bit after the Lord Mayor's show, and suddenly we're looking at it with a bit of trouble again. But I am interested in how it will go, is probably the way I would put it. It's going to be the sort of game under Muslic where, aside from that Oxford game, which was his first game overall, it's going to be the first time where both sides are gonna probably be treating the game in a similar way. Both sides are gonna be up for the fight, if you want to put it stereotypically like that. So whoever wins the battles will come out on top. And who's going to win the battle between Argyle and Millwall? In the past, that was an easy question to answer. It's not quite so easy anymore. So we'll see and keep our fingers crossed.
John, I know that you have opinions on or strong opinions, on every manager in the EFL. Alex Neil, now manager of Millwall, he's never actually beaten Argyle. 1 draw, 1 loss, 0.5 points per game.
Brilliant.
Can Miran Muslic outsmart Alex Neil? Surely.
Yeah, well, he can, certainly. I think
He can.
he's a weird manager. He can. He's a weird manager, Neil, because just when you think his stock is sort of falling a bit, he then turns around and does quite a good job, or goes on a good run of form, and sort of makes you question it. Obviously, he had that very, very good early career with in England, certainly with Norwich, which everyone remembers. But he sort of slid down through the Championship, and obviously, I think after getting sacked by Preston, ended up at Sunderland in League One. But obviously did a brilliant job there. Was the manager who finally kind of ended their doldrums period in the third tier, got them up. And then, of course, as all good managers do, when the biggest club in the world came calling for him, he did not say no. He said yes, and was down the motorway to the footballing mecca that is Stoke-on-Trent. Obviously, unbelievably didn't work out for him there. Very hard to have foreseen that at the time, I know, given how what a well-run club they are, and how well they back managers, and how full the stadium is every week, in particular the full stadium bit. But yeah, obviously it didn't work out. Work out for him there. I'm not sure who they replaced him with. Some guys managing in League One, I think. Now, but anyway, he has ended up at Millwall, and I have to say, early on, I thought it was a poor appointment at the time, and I feared for them a bit. I watched the extended highlights of the game they played against Sheffield Wednesday, the second biggest club in the world at Hillsborough, and it ended up 2-2. But Millwall looked terrible. I mean, obviously, being outplayed by Sheffield Wednesday is a rite of passage, but no, they looked very lucky to get anything out of that game, and they looked sort of weak. Like you were saying, you don't outfight Millwall. That sort of looked like a team where it didn't really look like a very Millwall-y performance. Since then, they've been on the absolutely unbelievable run of form, and they are now one of the massive clutch of championship clubs that could even force their way into the playoffs. I'd be surprised if they do that. I think, honestly, that mid-table would be a pretty good season. I don't know why there's a comment saying John Stoke ran. I don't think that was a rant that I just went on praising Stoke. But anyway, yeah, I think they're on a great run of form, and it sort of continues what I think is actually quite a difficult start to Muslic's league career at Argyle. And I said this, I think, in the pub the other day. I think he got a bit unlucky that those first 3 games were at home, and 2 of them were against teams who were perceived as being very beatable in Oxford and QPR. But actually, both those teams at the time were on unbelievable runs of form. We had just happened to play them at a really, really bad time. I think when you add Burnley into the mix, we played the 3 of the sort of top 4 teams in the form table at that time, I believe. We then went to Sunderland, who obviously are near the top of the actual table. West Brom likewise. And yeah, now we've got another really, really difficult game against a Millwall side who, again, must be very much up there in the form table themselves. So it's an unfortunate time to play them, and at the moment we can't quite seem to catch a break by playing a team at a good time. It reminds me actually a little bit, if anyone thinks back to the beginning of last season a little bit, where we just seemed to catch every single team that we played on a decent run in form. Obviously, we played Birmingham when they were 3rd in the league, and they ended up going down and finishing 1 place below us. So yeah, there were many such examples. So
you probably actually went a bit Australian there, John, I think.
Maybe.
Third
in the league, mate. Listen, mate, you can say what you like about us, but you have to remember we're 3rd in the league, and if you're going to ignore that fact, then I think you have an agenda with your questions, mate. Anyway, where was I? Look, yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but we look coherent, we look energized. My sort of default expectation, I'll have to say, unfortunately, is that it's going to be a bit after the Lord Mayor's show, much like the Oxford game was after the Brentford game. But as Adam says, we're in a different place now. We've got a different squad with key additions being made. Muslic just had time to implement his style rather than 24 hours on the training ground. Yeah, we've just got to turn up. And I think in all of these games coming up, all we can really do is worry about ourselves. I think if we play like we played yesterday, or even like we played against West Brom, we'll win more games than we'll lose between now and the end of the season. If we revert to the team that played Oxford and QPR, even though those were tough games for the reasons I mentioned, yeah, we're probably looking at relegation being all but confirmed sooner rather than later. So, yeah, hopefully we can use yesterday as a galvanizing thing, as opposed to something that took it out of our legs and mentality a little bit. But yeah, I don't think Neil is the strongest manager in the Championship, and I'm sure Muslic can outsmart him, but got to give Millwall respect for what they've done recently and for what he's done there so far. And yeah, it's going to be a really tough game.
Who do you think is the strongest manager in the Championship? Like, as in, who could bench the most?
I think Miron would be up there. I think he's a strapping bloke for sure. Miron would be up there for sure.
Yeah. Trying to think. There's no absolute units, is there?
No, there's not. No.
Ryan Lowe would have backed himself to be. Ryan Lowe would have backed himself to be the answer to this question.
Yeah.
In his dreams.
He famously at the game on Saturday as well, down the Barbican at one point. It's a question I normally ask Adam, Sam, but because he does a bit more research than we do. But anybody in that Millwall side that we need to be wary of? Any centre midfielders that they signed from Wolves that we should know about?
He's definitely going to score, isn't he? It's Sod's Law.
Who's that?
Yeah, they did sign Luke Condell, which you know, okay, things you come to be about it. It
Wow.
did kind of strike me as an odd signing in the sense that he's not really the strapping Millwall kind of bloke you think of, is he? He's a very, very good technical player, but I'm not sure he's exactly the type you associate with Millwall. But my guess maybe that suggests that Alex Neil does quite like a bit of a more possession-based style than maybe other managers who Millwall have appointed. And maybe he's trying to phase a little bit. And to be fair to Condell, as much as he isn't really big or strong, he does press well off the ball. So, yeah, there is that. But I think it's inevitable he's going to score. So let's just hope we score too. As John kind of alluded to, over the years, after a big, apart from that run at the end of the title season where we ended it with 6 wins in a row, after a big bombastic Argyle game, the Argyle way is we go and lose the next game. That's the way we've done it so long, for so many years. And honestly, as much as nothing will beat yesterday, I don't think, unless we go and win at Man City, or obviously survival if that happens. But obviously, it won't feel as good at full time as the Liverpool game felt. But it will be such an important game for us in many ways from the mental aspect. Can we get over that after the Lord's Mayor show? Can we compete against a big battling team like Millwall are? And can the tired players on a physical level as well as the mental level find it in their legs, find the extra level to battle hard for 90 minutes and press hard for 90 minutes? Those are all the questions we have to ask. And it's going to be a big test to the team. And you know what? As someone who can be known as a bit of a Mr. Negative, if we come up short and if we draw or even lose, let's not get too downhearted about it, because before Sunderland game,
clip this, Aaron. Yeah. Aaron, clip this up.
Let's not get too downhearted if we lose, because even before the Sunderland game, who gave us a chance of survival? The fact we're now here, excited, thinking we can do this, we're in the fight, is unbelievable for where we were. I still think we're probably going to go down, just because I think Muslit's got a bit too much to do. But what I'm saying is the fact we're now in the fight is amazing. So, obviously, yes, if we absolutely get battered and lose heavily, then yes, be angry. But if it's just a game where we don't quite find our best level and we're just edged out and it's a fight and we lose narrowly, let's not get too downhearted. Let's not get too angry if that does happen, because it is just the way things go after a big game like that. It does often, get followed up by an after the Lord's Mayor show performance. That's where the saying came from, not just with Argyle, but probably with a lot of clubs. So it's one of those where I think I would absolutely take a draw. And I don't often say I'd take a draw, certainly at home, because we've got to start getting wins. But it's one of those where we could so easily lose. A draw would almost be a bit of a bonus, is the way I look at this game.
Adam, who are the actual key threats that we need to look at specifically? Femi Aziz, right? Joe Bryan.
Yeah, it's one of those that's interesting. Like Condell, I agree with Sam, doesn't seem like the typical Millwall style player. But I think the fact that he's been brought in and is now at the same club as George Honeyman, I think they can both do a very similar job to a very good level. Whoever starts there, I imagine it'll be Condell for obvious reasons, but it's one to look out for in any case. Femi Aziz, again, another ex-Argyle side. I think he's really come into his own actually since, and they didn't necessarily play on the same side, but since Esse departed for Crystal Palace, which I'm sure went down brilliantly. I think Aziz has kind of taken up the mantle, as it were, to be a really key threat in that side. When I look at their midfield, actually has impressed me a lot. The way that George Saville and Casper De Norre complement each other, I think, very well. As a midfield too, it can often be the case that you've got one carrying the other. I don't really think that's the case here. I think they're both very, very solid players for this level, and I'd like to hope that our midfield can be up to the task, because if we can win that particular battle, then we really will be giving ourselves chances. But yeah, I think the key threats, as it were, have been covered. There's a bit of rotation in the centre forward position, where another ex-Argyle target, Macaulay Langstaff, is an option. Ivanovic as well. Ivanovic versus Katic could be a battle for the ages. So yeah, there's plenty there, but I'd pick out the ones that have already been mentioned, and the one you say there, Aaron, with Femi Aziz. I think if they're gonna out-create us and they're going to get players into key areas, he's the player they'll want to be getting into those areas and scoring the goals. So let's see. I do obviously think it's sod's law that Condor will score a goal, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah, Superintendent mentions Ryan Leonard in the comments. I don't know if you've already mentioned him, Sam. I wasn't, I can't multitask. Wasn't really listening. He had a blinder up at their place, didn't he? Like it's the classic former Argyle.
Yeah, very, very much so. Always seems to be the case that ex-players save the best performance for a club that's binned them off in the past, isn't it? But yeah, he's been a good player at this level for quite a period of time. Millwall looked a really well-organised side that day. We were really poor. 1-0 flat at Argyle that day. Millwall should have put us away that day, really. And like I say, when Neil Harris left, really weird managerial departure that way. He didn't leave because he was doing badly. He didn't leave because he was being poached. He left because of one game where he had a bit of a spat with the fans and just didn't really want to put his ego behind him. It was odd to see him depart in those circumstances, really, Neil Harris. But he was doing a really good job. I do read Adam's previews, and what you say about Millwall is they're a side that this season, whilst they were still direct, it was direct in a really successful way. Their chance creation numbers were high. They were opening teams up. They were good defensively. And it was just the finishing was stopping them climbing up the league. Purely on their XG and XGA, they were a top 10 team, bordering even a top 6 team under Neil Harris, weren't they, Adam? And it was kind of surprising to see the good progress he was making throw all that away because of a bit of, harsh words after a game. But that's what happened. And Alex Neil's come in, and I think he's done a reasonable job so far. He started slowly, but they've really picked back up, and now all of a sudden they're not a million miles off the playoff contention. Not that they'll probably be anywhere near it by the end, but who knows? So tough time to play them when they're on good form. Solid team, shouldn't be underrated at all, and there'll be a very tough challenge for us on Wednesday night.
It's absolutely that. I think I don't know, and what Sam says about the underlying data they had under Harris is absolutely right. I think they were, if you take the expected points table or Justice League or whatever you want to call it, which has its critics, but they were third going into that game in that table, which was pretty insane considering where they actually were in the league. And it's kind of the reverse at this point. Under Harris, I think their underlying data was very good, and they were a little unlucky and struggled in some areas. And under Alex Neil, I don't think that data has been perhaps as good, but they've got the results. So I guess you'd rather have it this way around if you're a Millwall fan, and hopefully it's not another one of those where it comes back to bite us facing a team who's in form at just the wrong time. But it's a tougher one to predict the most, not with both teams having a relatively new management, both coming, by the way, off very, very good wins in the FA Cup. I know ours kind of trumps theirs, but going to Leeds and winning is very much not been the dumb thing in the league this season. So yeah, it's going to be. I say it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be one for the purists, I think. But yeah, a very interesting one to look forward to.
I do just quickly think I was going to say it's a bit of a weird one though, because I'm seeing these comments that sort of suggest that it's going to be a horrible battle and Millwall are going to sit there and try and frustrate us, and maybe this is true, but this is sort of the first time we've played them since coming back up in a game where we're going to be the sort of team that are more Millwall than Millwall almost. Like every other time we've played them, it's been a team that has been sort of aspiring to play fluid, attacking football, right? Sort of caution to the wind. Going forward, I guess you could maybe say that when we played them at the end of last season at their place, it wasn't quite like that because that was when we were looking to be a little bit more tight under Dewsdip and Nanskaville. But certainly, the two the home game last season and then the away game this season under Schumacher and Rooney, respectively, games that have come during spells when we've been trying to sort of impose ourselves in a sort of fluid attacking way on teams, and certainly that 2-0 win for them at Home Park last year under a former manager whose name I can't remember, who never lost home games to poor teams, was the epitome of a game where they frustrated us. They were just well organised. I don't think that we should assume that kind of template is what is going to follow in this game. It actually might be them who try to play slightly more football. So I do think, again, there are certain sort of things that do form the Millwall identity that we've discussed, but like I don't think they're sort of a particular shithouse side under Neil. From what I understand of them, Adam will maybe know better than me, but I don't think we're looking at a. And you're right to say that under Harris they weren't really a shithouse team either. They were actually a quite good, relatively progressive football team who like to play the ball forward. It could be that we're the ones who are really in their face, really physical, playing a low block, and that could completely scramble everyone's expectations of what it will be like. Who knows? But I don't think we should sit here and assume it's going to be a sort of low margin encounter because they're the ones that will make it that. It very much could be us.
John, before you give us a score prediction, Superintendent asks, do you have a fridge freezer unit in your office?
So firstly, this is my dad's office. And yes, it is a fridge freezer unit, but it's not my office. Adam also appears to have a fridge freezer unit, but it's blurred.
Correct.
And I know this,
and slightly more decorated, I may suggest.
Yeah, the Liverpool to my Plymouth Argyle of fridges. I know this because I've seen Adam sat in that situation before, even with his background blurred, and thought that looks like my dad's office where I sometimes sit when I do the pod when I'm at home. And lo and behold, I know it isn't because we're both there tonight. But yeah, if I was to turn my camera, it would look very much like Adam's backdrop. So that's an overly detailed answer to that question that I'm sure you are appreciative of.
Score prediction?
I said in our predictions league that we'd win 2-1, but I'm gonna I feel like I should have a policy of sticking with what I've said in the predictions league, even though I'm wavering a little bit on it. 2-1 Argyle. Why not?
I can never remember what I say in the predictions league.
Why you looked it up, Aaron?
Yeah, I just have put numbers, which is famously what we do in predictions leagues. But this time, Dan noticed that I copied his straight away. I basically just copied his, put them in because I thought somebody else's opinions might be better than mine for once. So I definitely can't remember what I put this time. Sam, now score prediction.
I said in the predictions league 2-2. And I'm going to stick with it. 2-2.
Nice. Adam? Mr. I don't do predictions.
Yeah, no, I'm not on strike when I'm live, so that's okay. But I'll go for a draw, like Sal. I'm going to say 1-1. I think possibly with them scoring first and bursting the bubble a little bit. But I think we're made of sterner stuff now, and I think we'll get the equaliser late on.
Nice. Jack says this podcast didn't fail to send me to sleep, so incredibly impressive that he manages to send a message whilst asleep. So fair play to you.
I think that's more to do with the amount you had to drink last night, my friend, rather than anything else. I think you needed a rest after that, clearly.
Yeah. Lazy Lunatic says 1-0. All right, I think that's everything, unless there's anything you guys want to add, because I feel like we spoke far more eloquently on Millwall and their strengths and weaknesses than we did on a 1-0 win over Liverpool. But as I said, maybe it's because I wasn't paying attention. Anything you guys want to add?
I'll happily do a run through of the game if you want.
Oh, just to say that I will. This is probably, I've got a very busy February, so for all of you who love the content, it's probably going to be the last time I'm on the podcast until after the Man City game. So if we win every game in between then, they might not let me back on. So just to,
if we win every game between then, you will be in drag, correct?
Oh no, hang on. No, I said I'd cover Millwall, didn't I? I said I'd cover Millwall. Yeah, never mind that. I'm on Thursday. That was a totally waste of 30 seconds. Sorry.
Really quickly, Adam, new set piece coach. Can't even remember his name.
Yes, no, I can't off the top of my head either. But it's long overdue. And our set piece statistics at both ends of the pitch have been terrible all seasons. Now, of course, there's the argument that we face more set pieces than most, and we don't have as many set pieces of our own as most. So of course, our numbers are going to be down, but not to this extent. I think our set piece work for a very, very long time has been awful. The best time to get a set piece coach was at the start of the season. The next best time is now. I am delighted to have the guy on board.
Hubert Auer, which sounds a bit like one of Jax's family members.
But
anyway,
Hubert Auer, probably. I don't think he's French.
Well, I don't know.
Unlike some asleep people.
Come off the man.
Very
come
good.
Anyway, if that's everything, should we just say bye? Okay, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, and find us on all your major podcast platforms. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't know if I've already said that. Anyway,